TripleXP. TripleXP.
Have you started recording? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you have? Oh, wonderful. Brilliant. Welcome to TripleXP.
Wait.
Oh.
Shane, can you do it in a spooky manner, please? Because it's Halloween special.
I thought about this, and I don't know what a spooky manner would dictate. Like what? Welcome to TripleXP. Is that spooky enough?
Perfect.
Okay.
It was a little more
Welcome.
Liberace than spooky, but I'm into it still.
Well, it's something. Welcome to TripleXP. This is episode 6.
Alright.
I'm Shane.
You can stop now.
And
You
this
sound
is
like a
Mike.
bellend.
Well, this is what I thought.
He
Right.
went for it though.
This
That
is-
was fucking
I mean, you asked, so I delivered.
You just sound like a sex offender at this point.
awesome. I would have gotten that van personally.
Okay, so welcome to Triple XP. This is episode 6. I'm Shane, and this is Mike.
Yo.
And today we have with us the extremely sexy
Hey,
JB.
handsome. So handsome.
Hello. Thank you.
Just to remind you that you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and all the other podcast places, Apple Podcast and whatnot. On this week's episode, we discuss the first glimpses of the Uncharted film. We find out why Among Us has been such a huge success, and we look at our favourite spooky games. But before any of that, who the fuck are you, JB?
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Josh. Everybody here calls me JB. And I invented podcasts. So fuck you guys. And,
I mean, there we go.
you're-
Everyone start paying their royalties
Yeah.
now.
The inventor of
you're-
podcasts.
Yeah, you guys are welcome. Yeah, actually, there's not much to say about me. I was thinking about this because for everybody that you've had on, and I know Cheese is going to be on next week. Like Ryan is the blog guy, Sarah and Jedi are the tech people, and then both Cheese and Max have like graphic design backgrounds, so they can help. And then I'm basically just
The sex appeal.
I'm just here. I'm the guy who walked into the group photo because I was looking down at my phone, and you guys were like, "Yeah, you can hang out. That's fine." So
Yeah. You're the eye
I don't
candy.
really, I
Yeah,
don't really bring anything to the table, but here I am anyway.
we need some eye candy to bring in the female listeners, and that's what you're here for, JB.
Yeah.
I mean, I say the female listeners, but you also would bring in the male listeners as well, because we all love you.
Yeah.
I'm just here to help in any way I can.
All right, get
Cool.
your top off.
Should we get started with this week's news?
Yeah. So this week,
Let's stop swooning over JB for a sec.
I mean, it's hard. Yeah, this week in the news. I mean, this has probably been the driest, shittest week of news we've had since we started recording this podcast. Every week we're saying, "Oh, there's not much news," but we've been able to pull something from the dregs of the internet. This week, I'm literally having to pull from the bottom of the fucking barrel because the internet is just nothing's happening. Nothing's happened. Like IGN and a bunch of other people got some PS5s. We all got jealous. We didn't get one. Some
Yeah.
knobhead said something on Twitter, made himself look like a twat. Everybody's removed themselves from him, including the company that he works for.
The
Like,
creative
literally-
director of Stadia.
Exactly,
Keyword
like
creative. But
creative fucking douchebag. But we do have a few stories. And so the first one, and this one I've kind of said to you guys, we've not spoke about it much because I wanted to hear your opinions firsthand. And I've got a question to pose to you to fill out this news section a little bit. So a news story came out of Tokyo, and I've got the IGN story up here. So we'll post a link to this. Essentially, Kojima Productions has confirmed that it's working on a new project and is hiring best-in-class talent for its Tokyo studio. Now, the listing states the game itself is something of a mystery at this point, with only vague clues listed on the Kojima Production careers pages. There are mentions of 3D model production for weapons, gadgets, vehicles, mechas, and a desired experience in event control systems in RPG. That's pretty much all we have. So, what I would like you two to do is, right now, tell me what type of game he's going to be making and what the fuck it's going to be. Like, because you know it's going to be weird as shit. So, what is the weirdest thing you can come up with that's going to involve those 4 things?
I'll go first. I reckon it's going to be a really pretentious, convoluted, long-ass, complicated Godzilla.
Like a Godzilla,
but
long,
with
like
thousands and thousands of reels of dialogue that nobody really cares about because that's just Kojima. Some weird, weird fucking story, but at the heart it's just a fun game of Godzilla.
Like, Storm Chasers. So is it going to be just like 2 people in a vehicle just following Godzilla around the world while having a conversation? Just nothing else happens, just following.
Yeah,
slowly.
Just like the film Twister without all the exciting bits.
Yeah. I mean, you probably would do that, to be fair.
Twister without the tornadoes.
Yeah.
JB, what are your thoughts?
So it's definitely, yeah. I mean, the fact that it's vague doesn't surprise me. I would imagine it will be vague even when the game comes out and like 3 months after the fact. Fuck, man, what it could possibly be about? A misunderstood sex robot. That's my best guess. I don't know. Kojima, I mean, admittedly, I didn't play Death Stranding just because it really, I don't know. Every time I think about it, I'm like, I'm not in the fucking mood for that. I absolutely adore the Metal Gear series, so I love Kojima. I loved PT. I really, really wish that had panned out because I think that would have been amazing. But he's a fucking weird guy, and sometimes I just I get it. You're a genius, but at the same time, are you just like fucking with us with all this weird shit? So that's my best guess. Misunderstood sex robot.
I like it. I mean, I think I'd like to see you play as a single character on a war-torn Earth, and you have to bring together a transformer and an alien into a marriage relationship to save the world. And it's basically just Transformers, but a love story. That's what I think it should be.
Yeah, well, the thing is, that sounds really stupid, but he could make a great game out of that. So
he definitely could.
Why not?
Exactly. He'll just get the same actor from the last game. It'd be fine.
Yeah.
Readers.
I'm in.
I mean, there is talk that it could be a sequel to Death Stranding, which, to be honest, I really hope it's not, because I did not like Death Stranding one bit, personally.
Yeah,
Mike, did you play that?
I did. Yeah, it wasn't great. I don't know,
man. I watched people play it, and I was like, this just looks fucking boring, and I never tried it.
I mean, the gameplay was like the best bit about it, and that was just kind of like walking and exploring the world, but it just really fucking pissed me off because obviously there's no fast travel, and at the beginning of the game you have to travel to this one city. So I travelled there thinking I'll just go there because it's told me to go there in the game, but no, I had to start a mission and then go there. So I had to go. Got all the way there. I was like, there's fucking nothing here. There's no cutscene or anything. Like, so I had to fucking go all the way back, and it took me like 4-hour round trip there and back. Like, and that was God. That sealed it for me. But I've watched a lot of gameplay of it, and it's just. I think I was watching a podcast, and they described it as a wanky story by someone who thinks they're smarter than what they actually are, and that just like
I mean,
hit the nail on the head for me.
that sums him up pretty well. But I mean that is literally the level of news we've got this week. Is Hideo Kojima is making a new game. Shock. It's probably going to be
So-
mental.
Yeah.
Kojima farted is basically this week's news.
Exactly. The other piece of extremely weak non-news that we have this week is that they have released an image. Sony have released an image of Tom Holland in his Nathan
be.
Drake.
Please be nude. Please be nude. Please be nude.
Not nude.
Right,
in his
fine.
Nathan Drake outfit and makeup and costume and everything for the upcoming Uncharted film that, if I remember rightly, has gone through some sort of horrific cycle at the moment of trying to get made, hasn't it? It's been in the pipeline for 5 years. It's
We've
had
heard
3
about it for
different
a while,
directors.
haven't we? Yeah.
It looks like it's finally getting made, but I mean, it looks pretty. But I mean, so did Tomb Raider, and so did many other video game. I mean, look at how pretty the Assassin's Creed film looked and how shit that was. So
I saw this picture, and I was talking to Ellie about Tom Holland and stuff, and I asked her if she found him attractive, and she was like, "What, isn't he 12?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's probably around 12, yeah." But she didn't. I was like, would you have sex with him? But she didn't say no. She just asked his age. So
She didn't confirm that she's a paedophile. She didn't confirm that she's a paedophile.
absolutely
have you
kill me
seen-
when she listens to this.
JB, have you seen the image?
Yes, only thanks to you guys and Evernote. But yeah, I mean, I think that he's a good actor, sure. But I feel like, and maybe this is just the old guy in me, but I feel like the missed opportunity to have Nathan Fillion play that role is so strong in my mind that I can't help but think that this movie's just not going to be good, because it could have been fucking great. If Nathan Fillion was playing that role, I would be so excited for this movie, but I'm very indifferent to it at this point.
Well, apparently, I mean, I can see why they've gone with Tom Holland, because Nathan Fillion doesn't give him a lot of wiggle room to make a franchise out of it. Tom Holland's a much bigger actor at the moment, and he's young, so they can get a lot out of him, and they can tell an origin story sort of thing. But apparently, both Nathan Fillion and who does the voice of Nathan Drake? My mind has gone blank.
Nolan North, I'm assuming.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yes.
It's one of the
both
two,
Nathan
isn't it? It's either Troy
Fillion.
Baker.
It's fucking Troy Barker or Baker.
It's always
or
one of
whatever his
them.
name is.
Apparently, both Nolan North and Nathan Fillion have been on set for the filming to give to give pointers to Tom and to help him out with the role,
That's cool.
which would be interesting. Because Nathan Fillion, let's be honest, just is Nathan Drake. He just is him. So if he is on set, giving Tom some pointers and helping him out with the role, that it might be alright.
So Nathan Fillion, he did a fan made thing, didn't he?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it was fucking great.
Yeah. What I remember
was
is pretty
pretty
good.
spot
Yeah.
I mean, that's great that he's on set to consult, but to me that's the equivalent of somebody else playing Deadpool other than Ryan Reynolds. But I'm supposed to be excited because Ryan Reynolds was on set to be like, "Hey, this is how you should play Deadpool."
Yeah.
Well, no, motherfucker, you should just play Deadpool.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I suppose it's just, I think the big thing for them is the age thing, isn't it? Is if they're going for a younger Nathan Fillion isn't necessarily going to be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
Yes, and I totally get that, but if there's anything that I feel like in the last 2 years, especially seeing how much fans actually do impact character designs or franchise directions or whatever the fuck, and obviously this pendulum can swing too far one way or the other, but I feel like that building a franchise, great idea, sure, but fans are a lot more fickle these days, and I feel like this movie would have gotten a lot more love if Nathan Fillion had filled in the role. But I mean, like I said, I have old guy pride. I also fucking love Firefly, so I'm like in camp Nathan Fillion. I'm totally biased when it comes to this. I do think that Tom Holland is going to be great because he's a good actor, and I think he's going to lean into it really well and give the role a lot of love. But it's tough for me to get excited for it because I do think it was a missed opportunity.
I mean, to be fair, if it doesn't do as well as they want, they'll probably just reboot in a few years anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be the way, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
Like with Tomb Raider.
yeah, Tomb Raider got the reboot treatment. Spider-Man's consistently getting the reboot treatment. There's, I know you guys aren't necessarily interested, but there's a lot of rumors going around at the moment that the Power Ranger film they did back in 2017 is getting a reboot again. And
I
they're
saw
trying
that.
to
Yeah, there was like
build a shared universe.
there was like a thing with the White Ranger, Green Ranger, is it? Like the old Power Ranger. I can't remember his name, but he's like
yes.
reprising the role, isn't he?
Yeah, so he was in the last one as well. He didn't reprise the role, but he was an extra in the last one alongside the original Kimberly. And the guy who directed, it's the end of the fucking world, I think it's called, that show. Apparently, he's taken the helm for it to build this like shared universe. But again, if it like the last one, because the last one was meant to have 5 sequels supposedly originally, and then it didn't do as well as it was supposed to, so then it ended up getting canned. So I imagine that again, this will either do well and they'll go, yeah, we'll make another one, or it will do badly and they'll go, yeah, we'll reboot that in a few years, as they often do.
So not the same cast as the most recent movie?
Supposedly not, no, because Power Rangers on the whole has changed hands recently. From it's now with Hasbro, I want to say off the top of my head, can't remember, because it recently got sold and the new company is doing lots of new different things with it, and they want to basically reboot it again and see where they can go with it, and hopefully they don't fuck it up this time.
I just want to say that the P in TripleXP actually stands for Power Rangers now.
I mean, I'm fine with this because I am a huge Power
I
Ranger
know.
fan, so...
If you've not guessed that already.
Did you guys dislike the last movie? I liked it.
No, I loved it. I absolutely adored it. I thought it was great.
I thought it was alright. It didn't have Bulk and Skull in, so it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. There is that, but I mean, I'm one of these people that, as a grown adult, I will continue to watch the seasons that come out each year. I get really excited for the new ones coming out and the changes that they make to each Ranger each year, and I like how they've got like this canon that they've built across all of the different seasons. There's some really good stuff going on in the comics at the moment with Boom Comics. They've created this incredible comic series. So yeah, I'm a huge fan, and I think if the film takes some more pointers from the comics and what Boom Comics have been doing to kind of more modernize it recently, it will do really, really well. I think if they try to make the original series but into a film, it won't do as well. Essentially, is my opinion.
Yeah.
But I've probably lost both of you now because you two are like, we don't know what he's talking about.
I was actually just fantasizing about Amy Jo Johnson. I was thinking about the Pink Ranger when I was 13. Man, oh my god! I think she might have been what started puberty for me. That might have been the push I needed.
Just kickstarted it.
Yeah,
the original Kimberly was something special.
God. Did you guys ever watch? She was in a show. You know what ended up getting ruined for me is she was in a show called Felicity, and she was just this like pretentious fucking dork with a guitar. She sucked in Felicity, and it ruined it a little bit for me.
Ruined that whole fantasy.
Yeah,
I don't think that show ever made it to the UK.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know
not one I've ever heard of.
Yeah, you're not really missing out that much to be honest.
I'm gonna have to go and watch it now. Just gonna have to. No, but she was great.
Don't if you're still trying to jerk off to Amy Jo Johnson, I wouldn't. Trust me, I've been burned.
Oh, maybe I won't then. I mean, anyway, that's the news. We're getting a little bit off topic, but yeah, that's it. That's it for the news. So let's just move straight on, shall we? To what we've been playing.
Yeah. Go on.
JB as our guest.
As usual, the guest goes first.
All right, so I've been. I typically kind of stick with one game at a time, but I've been going back and forth between 3 mostly. I'm on my second playthrough currently of The Witcher 3, which I'm actually at this point enjoying even more so than my first playthrough, because I have since I completed the game initially, I've really jumped headfirst into the lore. Obviously, I watched the Netflix series, which I thought was really good, and started reading the books a few months ago. And when I say reading the books, a British guy is reading them to me on Audible, but it still counts, and it's confusing because he does all the voices, and when he does the voices of the ladies, he actually sounds really good. I'm like, I kind of want to fuck this guy's voice. So that's obviously made me like the game even more. I've also been playing Ghost of Tsushima multiplayer with actually Mike and a mutual friend of ours, Esk, and even a special guest appearance from the Strongback Breadstick Ninja. That's so fucking good. I've been doing the story missions with Esk and the survival mode waves when it's either like Mike and me or Mike, me, Esk, and Breadstick. So it's fucking great. For those of you who haven't tried it, I would absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's been a lot of fun. Dude.
Yeah. Shane, have you played that yet? You haven't tried it yet?
No, I don't have the game anymore. I played because I rented Ghost of Tsushima when it came out, and I just played the storyline and then sent it back. So I haven't tried any of the multiplayer stuff, but I might re-rent it at some point further down the line and give it a whirl.
It's definitely worth it.
It's totally different. Worth it. But it's probably also one of those things that it's funny. I was talking to Sarah about this just yesterday. I said I'm super into it right now, but I can also totally foresee in 4 weeks me being like, yeah, I'm fucking over it. But for right now, it's great because it's everything I loved about the main story campaign, which was I just played the main story as a goon. I just ran into every camp. I was like, stealth is for fucking cowards. I'm not doing it. I'm just running straight in and hitting people in the face with a sword. And that's what the multiplayer basically has been so far. So
that's how I played it.
Yeah.
Stealth is for pussies. Just running there.
Yeah.
I kind of played it just hitting everyone in the face with an arrow. And then
that's fine too.
When I got spotted, I was like, right, now I'll stab everyone in the face with a sword.
There's no wrong answer, which is why that game was so great.
Yeah. I'm enjoying seeing a resurgence in people replaying it again and all the photo mode photos popping up on Twitter and stuff. Because I love me some pretty pictures, and that game was just so good for it.
I mean, there were some great pictures that came out of that game.
This might be a weird time to ask, but so I've gone into photo player mode a few times for the campaign. How do you take a fucking picture? What button do you have to press?
Oh man, you're such an old man when it comes to tech. But you just hit the screenshot button.
I know.
You just hit the share button on your.
I can't remember.
Just share button on your controller. Yeah.
Okay, so I've literally never pressed the share button except accidentally the entire time I've had a PS4. It's never occurred to me. So that's how you do it. The share button. All right. Well, that makes. I would press X. I would press all the regular buttons. I'd be like R2 maybe. I don't fucking know. Never took the picture. So.
Damn. You also have to remember, JB, that to get the best pictures in that game, there must be involving a murder or corpse of some kind.
Well, the first time I tried to take a picture, it was because I was riding my horse and I accidentally hit photo mode as I was riding through a dude that was that was dead and hanging from a tree. And so basically my upper torso was this guy's dead body and my lower torso was like Jin's legs and then on a horse. And I thought, this is a hilarious picture, and I couldn't fucking take it because it never occurred to me to press the share button.
You should have shouted for tech support.
Probably.
Sarah,
Yeah,
please.
Sarah. Sarah, my PlayStation is doing things.
What about you, Shane? What have you been up to this week?
I haven't, and I was talking to JB about this while we were waiting for you at the beginning. I haven't actually really played anything this week. I've done an hour or two on NHL. I've played 2 games of Siege of Strongback. I literally have not had time to play games this week.
Yeah, nothing noteworthy.
Not in the game area, but
Yeah.
I have on our spooky theme of the week. I have just finished watching the Netflix show Bly Manor with my other half. So me and Lauren started watching it a week before, 2 weeks ago, and we finally got around to finishing it this week. And I don't know, have either of you seen it?
I kind of watched a little bit with Ellie, and I just treated it like a spooky Where's Wally, where you just spotting the ghost in the background. I was like, "There's one, I've seen him." But other than that, no, I'm not super into horror movies, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit later on, I think.
Okay. And JB, I think did you say you'd seen it?
Yes, Sarah and I both watched it, and we were. I think we both like Haunting of Hill House more, but we were into it.
Yeah. So I know I agree with that. So it's not a sequel, but it's the follow-up series to Haunting on Hill House. And it's made by the same people, and it follows that sort of American. I can't remember what it's called now. That other American horror show where it uses the same actors.
American Horror Story.
Yeah.
That's the one.
The American
actors and
horror show.
I couldn't remember what it's called.
You were so close.
Very close. And yeah, so they use a lot of the same actors, and it's a story that I mean, as I say, it's a horror. It is a horror story, but it's also not. And if you've watched Hill House, it follows very much a lot of the elements of that. So Hill House had this horror ghost story element to it. Bly Manor is very much the same, and it follows the story of this au pair who goes to this country manor in England and is looking after these 2 children, but spooky shit happens around the house, and it's all a bit odd. But to be honest, the ghost side of it, and this is similar, it's similar to Hill House, the ghost side of it isn't really the main sort of core concepts of the show, and a lot of it is more psychological and around their psychological them dealing with trauma and them dealing with issues in their life than it is just about the ghost. The ghost is kind of just them the method of which they tell the story of all this psychological stuff in the background. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. It wasn't as good as Hill House. I agree with you there, JB. I thought Hill House was better, and there was, like Mike did, there was a lot of expectation of knowing those ghosts were there in the background, so there was a lot more spotting it, whereas Hill House, it was a shock that they were there, whereas this was like, oh, there it is, and it took a lot of that fear factor away. But from the psychological points of view, the stories they covered, this idea, without going into spoiler territory, this idea of being able to go into your memories and relive out memories and stuff. It was really interesting. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a solid watch. And like I say, it's not all horror and ghost. There is very much a lot of emotion and psychological sort of emotional elements to it. But no, I solidly enjoyed it, and I'd recommend it to anyone personally.
The small bits that I watched of it, I think I watched parts of 2 episodes. And the bits that I watched, the cinematography in that, and also in Hill House, it's just so fucking good, and it really drags you into the image. Because I don't know if you two know, but I've got a huge photography background. I did a degree in it and stuff, and that is something I really look into when I watch movies and stuff. Is just the camera placement and the scene and stuff like that, and they did a spectacular job on the bits that I watched anyway. Every frame was just really set out really well. It was really good. It was a good enjoyable to watch in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's quite interesting that when you watch the full series, very much the beginning of the series, there's a lot less ghost stuff, but you see more ghosts in the background shots.
Yeah.
And then in the back half of the series, there's more ghost stuff happening, but there's a hell of a lot less ghost shots in the background. Like you don't really see them that often in the later scenes.
Mhm.
But the story like ramps up massively. So it's interesting that they kind of there's very much of a little ghost focus at the beginning, but they use these really cleverly filmed shots to have them in the back and to have them like in positions where you almost double take and go, did I see something there? I'm not.
Mhm.
Was it? Did that move?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I think the first four to five episodes, it seemed like every 3 to 5 minutes, either Sarah or I would pause it and be like, "Did you see that motherfucker in the background?" And that definitely started occurring less and less as the series went on. But I never made the connection until you said it.
Yeah, I think it's really really smartly done, and like I say, it's if it was just a pure ghost story, I wouldn't enjoy it because I'm not massively big on horror on the whole. But they really touch on that psychological and like emotional element of humans, and they just use the ghosts as kind of the roller coaster, the track to tell that story. And
Mhm.
yeah, like I say, I think it's solid, and I'd happily recommend it to anyone to give a watch, whether you do or do not like horror based programs. That's it for me though, Mike. What
Yeah.
about yourself?
I just wanted to mention and shout out to the original Bly Manor or the original Hill House. If I don't know if you guys have ever seen Three Men and a Little Baby, but there's a fucking ghost.
Oh, yeah.
There's a fucking ghost in that. And he's right in the background.
Absolutely.
And if you watch that film, it's the part where Jack comes back. There's like the two lads at the start, and then one of the other guys that they all live together for some reason. He comes
Yeah.
back, and there's a scene where he walks past the window. There's a ghost in the window, but it scared the living shit out of me at like age 12 when I watched that. But
Dude, that was big news. I
yeah,
remember
I think it was.
because that was like pre-internet when that shit came out. If you heard that rumor, you had to go. You either had to own the VHS or you had to go and rent that shit and find out exactly when it happened and pause it and then
Yeah,
you
it
know
was. It was.
really look.
I remember seeing that, and it was my first like, I guess like weird horror experience. I was like, oh fuck, shit! Like it was like, I felt it like go through my body in a way. Like,
Thought it was a real ghost.
yeah, I did. But I was at 12 at the time. But
You
yeah,
couldn't help but be a pussy. You were 12.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
It wasn't your fault.
It's my fault. But anyway, I have been playing, like you said, a lot of Ghost of Tsushima. I know a certain person will hate me for butchering that, but
Okay.
but yeah, but the multiplayer has been a lot of fun. Yeah, I've been just eager to play it, and like I was with the main game, I was just really eager to just get through it, and it's just more of the same, more being a ninja, but with your friends. So it's just good. It's just good. If you love the swords, ninjas. I mean, I said to you, JB, that imagine this game, but it was Ninja Turtles, and we were like,
Oh my
"Fuck
God.
yes!"
I mean, I'd be buying that shit immediately.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
I would take a week off of work for that game.
yeah.
Well,
So,
maybe
yeah.
maybe the owners of Ninja Turtles will look at this game and be like, "Fuck, we can do that shit. Let's do it."
Mhm.
Well, the Ninja Turtles are cropping up in every game, so
It's true.
they're in Injustice, they're in Smite now. Why not? Why not Ghost?
Yeah, why not just have a good Ninja Turtles game, 4-player co-op?
That's the dream. That's what
It
we're all
really
waiting
is.
for.
Did you guys play Mutants in Manhattan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the
What
sort of
did you think?
3D one? But it's like 3D
Yeah.
modeled.
Yeah, it was pretty solid, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, if they had made more, I absolutely would have bought them. I know that game got a fair amount of criticism, and I don't know if it was because that same studio had done some really good Transformers. Like, did you guys play Transformers Devastation?
Yes, that was a solid.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
played
god!
that. It was really good.
I remember when I played that, I thought, my god, if this same company did a Ninja Turtles game, I'm gonna be there on day one. And sure as shit, like 2 years later, they did it. And yeah, I would have loved more, but it
Yeah,
just like dead in the water. It was really disappointing.
yeah, it's a shame they didn't really go any further with that because, like I say, but next generation coming, who knows what's going to crop up and out of the dirt.
So just off the back of this Ninja Turtles talk, if you could pick one game studio to make a good 10 out of 10 Ninja Turtles game, who would you pick?
Oh shit, that's a really good question.
It's a difficult one because obviously Sucker Punch have just laid the foundations for what a good ninja game is.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So you
like,
said Sucker Punch.
well, the obvious would be Sucker Punch. I've always enjoyed Platinum Games. I think Platinum Games should do it justice. But I don't. It's a tough one. Insomniac.
I'm gonna
I'll
say
go with Insomniac.
Naughty Dog, but I want
Naughty
it.
Dog would be a really
Yeah.
good one too.
But I want it to be like not less like cheeky charm Nathan Drake and more like The Last of Us, and just be really dark and gritty Ninja Turtles.
Like murdery ninja, like
Yeah,
OG
yeah.
comic Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that would be so good.
Yeah, see that's what I'm thinking. Like, I look at the way Insomniac have handled Spider-Man and the how like close to the comics they've been, and just think if they were to do like the entirety of Manhattan and have it like really dark and gritty, set at night, like close to the comics, that would be immense.
Yeah, yeah. So, JB, did you say a studio? Sorry.
I can't decide. You know, I initially thought I would absolutely give it back to Platinum, but only if they would let me have some type of say in the character design, because that was the only thing that I didn't necessarily dig about mutants. I thought I mean it could have been way worse. It could have been Rise of the Ninja Turtles, which I don't know if you guys have seen anything from the current series, but
Yes, it's horrible. I don't like it.
and I mean the thing I really tried to like it because when the 2012 series initially hit, I fucking hated it. I absolutely hated it, but it was only because I was totally grasping on to the original 80s cartoon, and then I would just casually record it on my DVR and be like, "Hey, I'm not gonna watch this because it sucks," but I just kind of let it accrue, and then I started rewatching the '80s series, and I was like, "Man, this cartoon was fucking bad. I need to try the 2012 one again," and it was so fucking good. And it's probably the best animated series for the Ninja Turtles that has existed. And so with Rise of the Ninja Turtles, when the initial imagery came out, I was like, all right, this looks like a fucking turd, but I'm gonna watch it because I thought the same thing about 2012, and it ended up being the best of all time. But no, it's just fucking bad. And I know I'm old. I know I grew up with the '80s cartoon. It's just fucking bad. There's no other way to say it. So honestly, I feel like all that said, I know it was a lot of words, but it's Ninja Turtles, so I'm very passionate.
What about really,
I think
really, really pushing it out there, really outside the box? Rockstar with the same budget, size, and love that they put into GTA. Imagine that.
Grand Theft Auto.
Funny?
Let's go.
I was
do
going
it.
back and forth between Rockstar and Sucker Punch, and the only reason why I started thinking maybe Sucker Punch was because they did such a beautiful job with the Kurosawa mode in Ghost of Tsushima, and since the Ninja Turtles were originally black and white, I thought that would actually be a pretty good option. But Rockstar would also be a really, really good option too. I don't know. Either way, you couldn't lose. I mean, either way, I'm buying it day one. So
if you wanted it to be buggy as fuck, just get it made by Bethesda.
There you go. That works too.
But Mike, you've also moving away from the Ninja Turtles because we're going to get stuck in this conversation
Yeah,
forever.
it's gonna be
You've
a long episode. Buckle up.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles special.
You've also finally managed to dabble in Among Us, haven't you? Because not many of us have yet, but I know you and a bunch of the group managed to this week.
Yeah, I kind of avoided the hype for a lot of it. I remember I played a little bit with Camp the Boy, and it just I was really drunk at the time. It was after recording a podcast. I hopped on and played a little bit, and I just didn't get it, and I was just like, it's rubbish. And then so Hayes, a friend of ours, and Ryan, the blog writer, they all started playing it, and it got more and more people started joining in, and because it's free on your phone, and it's like £4 on Steam, so we all jumped in it, and it's a lot of fun. It really is. But it's the most fun when you're the imposter, I think, anyway. But you get
Is that because you're really good at being a lying cunt?
You know what? I'm a terrible liar. Like, I've been told many, many times that I'm a terrible liar. But there's something about Among Us that just brings out the killer in me. I don't know what it is. But
I mean, that's a sentence we all want to hear.
I mean, I was playing with Ellie and a few others. There was about 7 or 8 of us, something like that. Killed about 4 of them, something like that, maybe 3, 4. And then they all started like sticking together because they knew who wasn't the killer. They kind of figured it out by then. So there was Hazy and Aaron Strongback who stuck together because they were like, "Oh, I know you're safe, so I'll stick with you." So they were together, so I knew they were together. So I pulled out my big brass balls and just killed Hazy right in front of Aaron. And then when you kill someone, you can report their body, or when you find a body, you can report it. So I should probably explain that you have 1 killer or 2 killers, and then the rest are just crewmates trying to fix the ship. You can go around and sabotage and try and kill people and hide the fact that you're the imposter. It's a really simple concept, but it all comes down to the discussion that you have when a body is reported or something is reported. So you'll be, you'll like discuss it between you, like, oh, I saw this person there and this person here. You'll try and figure out together who's the killer, and if you are the killer, you will try and throw people off. So it works like that. So just going back to what I said, that there was Hazy and Aaron, they'd both figured out that they weren't killers and they were safe together, so they stuck together. So I just walked up to Hazy, stabbed her in the neck, as you do. If you know her, then it's perfectly reasonable.
You get it.
You get it. So yeah, then Aaron was like, so I reported the body as the killer, and then I blamed it on Aaron. I was like, Aaron just killed Hazy right in front of me. I just saw it. And Aaron was like, oh my God, you fucking lied. Yeah. It was just really funny how it played out, because Aaron was like, it's you. It's obviously you. Like, I just saw you. And I was like, no, you're lying. You're lying, bro. I could see right through you. So eventually they all voted and kicked Aaron out, and I went ahead to win the game. So I think from that point on, I was like, this game is amazing. I love this game. I'm so good at this game. So yeah, so that's my Among Us story, and it was really good, really, really good. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I still haven't got around to playing it. Every time you guys are playing, I've literally just got home from work and I'm absolutely fucked.
Yeah. What about you, JB? Have you been playing anything else?
I did play Among Us with Sarah's friends from college, and
nice.
that was a pretty good time. So I've only had limited exposure, but it's everything you guys said. It's a lot of fun. You definitely find out who the group scumbags are really, really quickly. You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, the only other thing that I've been digging into was Star Wars Squadrons, and interestingly enough, I've really been enjoying it. I've been looking for a good single player space shooter for a while. I used to be obsessed with these kind of games. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a game called Colony Wars for PlayStation 1 that was so fucking good. And I think it was a trilogy. I'm pretty sure there were 3 of them.
I remember the name. I feel like I've read it in a cheat book. That's the
I
only,
never
only
heard.
explanation. Like,
Well, you know what's funny is I remember like when I had the opportunity to either get a PlayStation 1 or a Sega Saturn. I got a Sega Saturn and I loved the Sega Saturn, but the only reason why I got it was because they were doing some type of, Christmas special where if you bought the Sega Saturn, you got Virtua Cop 2, Daytona Racer, and Virtua Fighter 2. And so I thought, all right, that I got to get the Sega Saturn. And then I got it, and then basically every awesome game coming out after that was for PlayStation, the original PlayStation. And I remember seeing a commercial for Colony Wars, the first one. And as soon as I saw it, I just remember thinking, fuck this. I'm done. Sega can suck a dick. I'm getting the PlayStation. And I did, and Colony Wars was one of the first games I got. So anyway, all that said, I know there's a lot of words, but I've been waiting for...
Just to interrupt and jump on the back of that, I just want to say that I need to see that advert that made you say, Sega can suck a dick. Fuck Sega. I'm out.
I'm gonna find it. I'm sure it exists on YouTube. But so I've been waiting for like a good space shooter for a really long time. And so when Star Wars Squadrons was announced, I was really, really excited. Got it day one, and I had really been enjoying it. And then with incidentally, the episode of TripleXP that Sarah was on when Shane, you had told her that PSVR was going to be compatible with PS5. At that point, I thought, all right, I've been kind of sitting on the fence. Do I get PSVR? Now I definitely, like Sarah and I definitely want to get it. And so I have Star Wars Squadron sitting here. We haven't got a PSVR yet, but we have decided to buy it together. And ever since we decided that we just need to get off our asses and go get it. But I can't play it on a regular TV. I'm like, oh God, like I'm not going to play this on a television like a poor person. I'm going to put a VR headset on and really get into it. So I haven't touched it since because I've just been excited about the PSVR version, but I'm really excited to get back into it. And I enjoyed listening to Shane, to your thoughts on it, because I completely agree with basically everything you said. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. I mean, I've pretty much sent it back now. In fact, I feel like I've got my time in it. I considered playing it in VR, but I also knew that would make me extremely ill. So
you
cut my
don't think
losses.
VR experience?
I do love my VR, and I do try and dabble in it quite a bit. But there's certain things where it's moving fast, or with the because the way I tend to play Star Wars is I was doing a lot of like flips and like shit spinning upside down and all that sort of shit. And I was just watching it, thinking, if I try and do this in VR, I am gonna vomit on myself.
Or just fall off your couch.
No doubt about it. It will happen.
Well, you know what's funny now that you mentioned it. So my experience, I have probably played a total of 10 minutes of anything on PSVR, and it was the demo disc. And so for me, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But I'm old as fuck, and there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to put this VR headset on and put in Star Wars and throw up all over the place. So I don't know. I'll keep you guys posted on how it goes. But
piece of advice when it comes to VR, genuinely some of the best advice I've ever been given, and it was given to me by Max. If you pop down to your local, I don't know what your pharmacy, drugstore, whatever it is that sells that sort of shit, and have you ever seen the like acupuncture the bands that you get for flight?
Yeah.
So get a pair of them. So if you don't know what they are, they're like bands that have got a little plastic thing in them with like a little ball on them, and they put pressure on a certain point on your wrist, and it's to stop you from getting motion sickness during flights or when you go on boats and things like that. Get a pair of them, wear them when you're playing VR, and it minimizes your sickness so much.
Wow, top tip.
Genuine, honestly, top tip. Cost me like £9. £9 for a pair of those, and because I play a lot of Dirt Rally on VR, and before I got those, honestly, one game in and I'd be like, I'm gonna be ill. I can now play that game without any issues whatsoever. Like I've had barely any issues since getting those. And yeah, they're not the most comfortable, but you get used to them pretty quickly. So yeah, top tip: go get yourself some.
All right, I got throw up bracelets to add to the next
Throw
store
up
run with,
bracelets.
so, yeah.
I'm sure you can get them on
Uh,
Amazon or something for like £6. You'll be fine, or whatever it is, $6.
Whatever the equivalent is, I
Whatever
can't
the
do
equivalent
that.
is, yeah. Yeah, exactly that.
Right, so
I think that is that
oh, go on.
everything, or did you have something you wanted to
I think so.
add, Mike?
I was going to talk about the boys, but maybe we could do like a spoiler cast for that. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I
Some-
think a spoiler cast is probably better because there's some
Yeah.
really gritty things that I think we're both going to want to get into. And the same, I think JB would be well up for that as well.
Absolutely.
There's some really gritty things that we can't really get into without it being spoiler cast. I apologise. Molly is about to bark. Molly?
Waiting for it. Come on, Molly.
No, she didn't. She just
False
well,
alarm.
she did, but she went ruff and then just stopped.
Absolute bark tease.
Well, in
Right.
that case, then, shall we
Yeah,
move over
let's move
to
on.
our third segment? Mo, come here again.
Segment 3.
So our third segment is all about spooky games this week.
Yeah.
Which is we all know is JB's favourite. I mean, I've watched your streams, JB. We know it's your favourite type.
I do like some. I do like to stream some horror games.
Do you like the spooks?
I do.
So there's a couple of questions that we're going to go over when we talk about spooky games. So we're going to be looking at like our favourite spooky games, spooky moments. But I know that Mike, you've got an element you want to talk about first around horror games versus horror movies. Did you want to touch on that before we go down the questions?
Yeah. So, for me, just going back to Bly Manor, and it's why I kind of had a disconnect with it, was I find horror movies like really predictable and kind of like once you've watched a few of them, you kind of get the same tropes and they kind of hit the same beats. Whereas with horror games, you're in control, or like, you know, JB, I watch you stream a lot of horror, and it's kind of why we picked you for this week's like, you know, topic. But it's very like a personal experience, and you are more connected in that world than you would be watching a film. So I just want to like just get your guys' opinions on like, you know, what do you prefer, you know, games or movies, and I also just like want to touch on like what do you class as horror, because there's a lot of elements to horror that make it what it is, and it is a cool genre, and it can be, you know, really good and entertaining, especially like in the streaming world and things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to get your guys' opinions on, you know, like which is better, games or movies for horror. So go on, Shane.
JB, do you want to?
Oh no.
Oh, you want me to go? No,
Yeah,
I'll go
go on
first. Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I don't particularly enjoy horror films. I think there's a few horror series, Bly Manor and Hill House being two of them that I do enjoy. But on the whole, I agree. Most horror films, they cover the same sort of storytelling elements, same story beats, and they don't necessarily come away from that same format. And so a lot of them, they rely on jump scares, as opposed to sort of like a real sort of psychological element to them, which to me, I don't find that interesting. Whereas horror games differ massively because not only are you're not just watching that happen, you are partaking in it. You have some control over the character often, and there's that fear of not just that jump scare happening, but it's going to happen to you and your character, and you've got to try and get out of it. But I think games have a much better setup to be able to utilize different formats of fear easier, whether that be through sound, whether that be through jump scares, whether it be through using other characters to build up tension, music, whether they use side things like collectibles, where you find the lore stuff, or was it we were talking the other week about Outlast, and where it's got the videotapes, like different elements that can help sort of expand that fear of what you're seeing and what you're being involved in without just shoving it down your throat so much. Whereas horror films tend to do that a lot.
So I just want to ask, what's like the most important element to make it a horror in a game specifically? To you, what do you think?
I think that when I think horror and a horror game, it's the thing that really defines it as a horror is the setting of the game, in my opinion. Like, because a lot of games have jump scares, and you could argue that Last of Us, for example, is a horror. I wouldn't say it is. I would say it's more of an action adventure style game.
Yeah.
Just a darker storyline. Whereas you look at something like The Evil Within, that's clearly a horror game.
Yeah.
It's set in a horror-esque storyline with clear characters that are built solely to scare you, as opposed to just being part and parcel of the story. Games like Outlast. Trying to think of some other horror games without going too much into the list of games we're going to touch on.
JB, I just want to ask you same question. Like, horror games, horror movies, which one is better?
I think games for sure, and I don't know if it's just again a product of kind of getting older, but I haven't found. I think the last movie that I watched that scared me was Event Horizon, and then I watched it again, like after I hit my 30s, and I was like, "This is dumb as fuck." Definitely games, because I think because of the immersion factor, they can kind of creep you out a little bit more. I totally agree with what Shane said about environment. I think that's really, really important, because, I mean, even Arkham Asylum, I remember when you get to the part with Scarecrow.
Yeah. This is
here we go with spoilers, but Arkham Asylum is not a horror game, but when you first go into that morgue as Batman, that fucking scene is scary as fuck. And again, it's absolutely environment, because that is not a horror game at all. But that was, as far as recent games that have creeped me out, that came out, I don't know, like a decade ago maybe, and it was pretty freaky. So
I think that's a good like example of horror. Is like it's unexpected, and they have that horror element in that game, and it just comes out of nowhere almost, and it's like that's kind of what horror is and can be, is this just element of like unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, but just for me, the most important thing in like a horror game is the audio.
Yes.
Like an example of that being, I can't remember. My mind's just gone blank, so I'm just gonna have to move on. But I was thinking about something when you were speaking, JB, and I can't remember what it was. It'll come back.
Making so many great points.
I know, and then I fuck it up. I fucking ruined it all.
Well, now we've established sort of like what we see as a horror game. Then, should we start with our first question then? What is your favourite spooky game? Your favourite horror game or games? Because I know a couple of us have more than one.
You sound so bitter about that. Like, after last week, you're like, more than one. Again,
every single week, Mike just goes against the rules.
Just go extra.
Fucks everything up. But to be fair, I've got 2 this week. So I've broken the rules myself, but still, fuck you, Mike.
It's still Mike's fault.
100%. So JB, let's start with yours, mate. What is your top favourite horror spooky game?
So there are obviously many great choices to pick from, but what I ultimately landed on was Dead Space 2. And when I say Dead Space 2, I kind of rolled Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2 together. 3 was okay, but kind of just pretending that doesn't exist for this particular example.
I'm glad you said that, because I was the first question I was going to have to you is why Dead Space 2 over Dead Space 1, from a horror perspective at least.
So honestly, I only have, I guess I have two specific examples as to why Dead Space 2 over Dead Space 1. So I would say Dead Space in general, it does a very good job of making you feel like a helpless little bitch for a good stretch, and then rewarding you with either a sizable ammo pickup or an opportunity to upgrade your rig suit or really anything. And then it just completely bends you over and fucks you in the ass again. And it just kind of does this over and over and over, but in a real, it's so well paced. It's one of those intangible things that it's tough to not get annoyed with a process like that. But I think Dead Space does a masterful job of making it a good, kind of like, we're gonna fuck you over and then give you a little cookie, and then you kind of just it's this addictive process of wanting to move on. Mike, to your early point that you didn't end up finishing making, but still, it was when you talked about the audio.
It's important, is what I was getting at.
Oh, it's so important. And
Yeah.
I think the audio and the way the environments, we talked about that a little bit earlier, but the way the audio and environments in particular are handled in the Dead Space series, it's again, masterfully done. The jump scares aren't so frequent that they lose their effect and kind of become cheap. But at the same time, anytime I was near a vent, I was just like ready to shit in my space pants, because they didn't always pop out of the vent, but they popped out of the event often enough that it just really made you paranoid. The necromorphs in general, their movements are very unsettling and creepy. I don't know if you guys ever watched like Jacob's Ladder, that old movie with, I think, Tim Robbins, but the way they kind of twitch and shamble, it's like they have this disturbing combination of cerebral palsy and Parkinson's, but coupled with the athleticism of Johnny Lawrence, where they can pretty like just jump on you, but do it in a really fucking weird way. It's just super goddamn terrifying. And then with Dead Space 2 in particular, there were two things I really liked. That one, they bring in these baby necromorphs where they have the human body baby torso.
Shit,
They were
yeah.
horrific.
They're
Yeah,
gross.
and so they're super creepy and gross, but after the fact, if you blast them in half, you get to experience the joy and hilarity of playing with a dead baby's upper body with your stasis module, which is a really nice break and kind of palate cleanser from all of the insanity that happened before that.
Yeah. There's comedy and horror.
Absolutely. How else do you stay normal throughout it? And that's the other thing too, is I love the thing about Dead Space 2 is Dead Space 1, Isaac Clarke was kind of this blank slate character, but in Dead Space 2, you see the effect that the first game had on him.
Yeah, they really add personality to him, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, like I just want to mention the opening sequence where you're literally running through, a space station, get ripped apart by necromorphs in a straitjacket. You're literally driven insane by the first game. So
yeah, and I think that's
carry on.
I love either in books or video games, I love the concept of the unreliable narrative, where you don't know what the fact is real and what's completely just based out of their fucked up brain. And taking that journey from him from Dead Space 1, where he was the silent protagonist, to 2, where he had a little bit more of a voice, but he was also a lunatic, was really cool.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite thing about this game was the objective marker system, because you could press the R3 button and know exactly where to go. And I feel like
That was great.
oh my god! And it's completely separate from the fact that it was a scary game. I just feel like every game should do this because there's nothing fun about being lost in a video game. And I would much rather the developers stop sucking their own dicks and break the immersion for just a second and help us navigate a map that they erroneously believed was intuitive, but is just fucking stupid. And I'm looking at you, Control, for that because I loved Control, but there were so many times where I was like, I don't know where the fuck to go. And if I could have just pressed the R3 button down and Jessie could have pushed her hand towards the ground and made a laser to tell me where, I'd been like, perfect.
Or literally just point in the direction to go like that way.
Yeah, and the thing is, and the thing is too, it's an option. If you want to get lost in the map for 3 hours, fucking great, do your thing, dude. That's fine. If you have all the time in the world to fuck around and search around the map, that's awesome. But it would be really nice for just press R3. Here's where you need to go. We're not assholes.
Yeah, I think it because Dead Space 2 sort of lent to that Metroidvania style where you'd go in one area, you'd get a certain pickup and then you'd have to go to another area, and it was like a labyrinth of the same areas and kind of a bit of backtracking and stuff like that. So you'd go over the same areas and not know where to go. So I think like it really worked with Dead Space 2.
Absolutely.
So Absolutely. I've got a couple of points to make with regards to Dead Space. So the first one is that the way with the map system you were talking about, not only was it great, but they built it into the game in a way that it felt natural to the game. It didn't feel like it was out of place. Like having the nav system built into his suit just felt like it should be.
It worked in that world, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
But the 2 points I want to make, so I've got a story about Dead Space, and also that game following on from last week's episode, that is a trilogy that needs a remaster on the next gen.
That's a good shout, definitely.
But so when Dead Space came out, I was 16, 17 in sixth form, and I had a really good friend whose dad was also a bit of a gamer, and we were both.
I'm so old. Anyway, sorry. Go on.
We were both. Maybe 18, 19. I can't remember, but I remember still being good friends with this girl and her dad, and he was playing Dead Space at the same time as me, and so whenever I was popping around there with some friends, we'd always have a chat about where he'd got up to and what how we were doing in the game. And I remember it took me ages to complete it, and I really, really struggled through the game. Like I thought it was fantastic, but I was really struggling with ammunition, and there were points where I honestly just I had to literally just punch my way through enemies because I was like, there was no fucking ammo anywhere. How on earth are you supposed to do this game? And I completed it, and then I was talking to him and another one of our friends who had also played it, and he was like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Shane? There's loads of ammo." I was like, "No, there isn't." And he was like, "What? Did you not stamp on the boxes?" I played the entire game without knowing you could stamp on boxes.
Holy shit!
The entire game, I literally completed that game, never knowing that you could stamp on boxes for ammo.
Mate, I went through that game stamping on everything just to make sure. I was like, boxes, stamp, dead necromorph, stamp, dead baby, stamp, just everything, stamp.
Yeah, no, like anytime I came across a creature, I'd stamp on it relentlessly through fear, especially as I had no fucking ammo to fight it. But yeah, it never occurred to me at that point that stamping on boxes was how you got more ammo. So I was going through the game with just the bare minimum ammo that you found laying around that wasn't in boxes. Honestly,
that's tough.
That's
like extra hard mode.
I ever got through that game. I really am surprised. So Mike, moving on, do you want to do your list of 3?
So my best spooky games.
Games.
One of them is Outlast. I think that's a superb fucking just an example of how good horror can be. It's got the jump scares in all of the right places. The audio is incredible. The visuals, and like it'll do this thing where it'll like force a perspective where you'll be going through like a a narrow corridor or something like that, or you'll see something in the distance, and it'll just instill this fear that that thing in the distance, it'll just be, might be an inanimate object or just a still wheelchair and something like that, and it will just it just brings fear. Like it just does it so well. Like I can't explain properly like just how good it is. It's one of my favorite horrors, and when it comes to horror games, I am an absolute little bitch because like I can watch horror movies all day long and just be like, oh, here comes a jump scare. Here's this is a scary bit, and because I just know like the beats and stuff of horror movies, and they're all kind of really really samey. And I remember my point, so I'm going to go back to it. Audio, and the reason why it's so good. I watched A Quiet Place, and I don't know if you've heard that or watch that film, but this
Heard
is
of it.
the last good example of a horror film for me, and it's not even a horror as such. It's not classed as horror. It's more of a thriller or like a tense sort of thing. But the audio in that was so good to the point like me and Ellie watched it in the cinema, and because in the film the world is like invested similar to Tremors, where you couldn't make too much noise, and these monsters would just be super fast and just kill you instantly if you made a noise. So it's about this family surviving in this world where these monsters that came from unexplained territory, whatever, they were attracted to noise. So you made a bit of noise, they'd come and they'd kill you straight away. And we watched that in the cinema, and we could hear like people slowly like biting into a piece of popcorn because it was just so tense. And in the cinema, and it was like you could hear like every little rustle of crisp packets in it because it was just there was no noise throughout most of the film, which I think is a really like bold fucking move, and I've not seen anything like it really in movies for a long time, where I think it lends to a cinema experience as well, where you're just kind of absorbed in this world, and that was the point I was trying to make, that audio is super important in horror, and it kind of lends to Outlast in that way that you'll boot up your video camera and you'll view it in night vision, but it'll have that sort of like slow wind up noise that you get with a night vision camera, and it'll kind of wind up and glow, and you'll see like shapes and shadows and shit in the distance. So I just think for me, audio is key, and going back to like cinematography and like your camera views and stuff, because I think when you're controlling a character and it's your perspective, especially in first person, I think it's really good for horror. And Resi 7 does it well. Outlast does it even better, in my opinion. You're more absorbed in that world, and I think that for me is like, this is why Outlast is one of my best games. Also, I want to like, yeah, because I mean, I watched you play through it, JB, and you had like similar experiences to me where you'd be like, just have these really tense moments. I think that's super important with the genre. But another one I wanted to shout out, just again on the same lines of audio, is Subnautica, because it just has this really cool sound design. I don't know if any of you have heard of Subnautica. It's basically a survival game. We crash land into a planet that's entirely ocean. And my biggest fear is the open ocean. I'm just absolutely terrified of it. So that game it's not technically a horror game because it's like a survival game, and it's not scary as such. It's not like there's no ghosts or anything. But I think it just for me personally, it was just that fear of the open ocean, and you can go in. You start off in like a shallow. In the shallows, it's called. So it's just all coral reef, and it looks all pretty and it's nice. But then you can dive deeper and deeper the more you upgrade your equipment and stuff. and that's when it gets scary. Is when you are like diving down, and all you've got is like your instruments of how deep you're going and where the land is and stuff, and it's just pitch black, and all you've got is like your instruments to dive deeper and deeper to try and find the mystery of this world that you've crash landed on.
Yeah,
Well,
that sounds terrifying.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's-
mean, I wouldn't do that in real life. So
no, I
That's
fucking
creepy.
hate Subnautica, but I also love it at the same time. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite games, and I just want to also quickly mention before we move on to Shane, your stories. 'Cause I know you've got some doozies because you told me the Alone in the Dark story, which is also the name of your sex tape.
Hey,
Hey,
I would still watch it.
yeah, Hellblade. If you know, Xbox recently bought out the studio, but they smashed audio design. Like, they're so good. Ninja Theory. It's set in this Norse world. I don't know. Have you two played that game? You two played Hellblade?
I've watched it, but I've not played. I keep meaning to play it, but I've not played it yet. I know a lot about it though.
Yeah. What about you, JB?
I have played it, and I would love to give my assessment on it, but I don't want to step on your toes. So you go first, and then I'll tell you what I thought.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought like the sound in that was really good. It just lent into this other side of horror. It's like all psychological. You know, you kind of playing this person that has a battle within themselves, and you know, it's more about the horror of mental health and that kind of struggle that you have within yourself. And it's just a really good take on that. But it was all set in the Norse mythology world, like loosely set there. But that was just a good example of a good horror that's not technically a horror game. But they're my favorite kind of games anyway. But JB, could you just get your thoughts on Hellblade?
Yeah, I started actually playing a lot of horror games because like Sarah kind of got me back into playing horror games. But even before I had met her, I did try Hellblade, and despite the fact that I've played a lot more horror games since meeting her, Hellblade was still probably the creepiest first 20 minutes or so of a game where she's paddling in, like, you know where she's paddling into. And you're just like, man, fuck this. Again, that's where that environment and the audio, like you said earlier, it's so important. So creepy. And the only thing that made me mentally check out of Hellblade was there was just too much nerd puzzle shit where you had to line up the symbols, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But the combat in that game was even the combat, it was so cool, but also terrifying. I would have loved to have finished that game, but the consistent lining up of symbols, and I just couldn't do it. But again, masterfully done.
Simple maths, can't do it.
Yeah, can't do it. If it's a puzzle, I can't do it unless I Google.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen of that game, it's like, as you say, it's one of the best examples of not just horror, but like you say, psychological, and a really, really, really strong way as to how they can address mental health in video games. And I do think that's a really strong title.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, really well done.
So Shane, tell us your stories, man. Too stupid for it.
So I don't play a lot of horror games because I'm a massive pussy and I get scared.
Cry puss.
And yeah, I'm literally a cry puss. I mean, I've played Resi 7. I've played a little bit of Outlast, and I do get a little bit scared. So I generally don't play them for my bumhole's sake. But when I was younger, I did dabble in a couple, and the two that really stand out for me, the first one being Resident Evil 1, because that, especially with the timeline of when that came out, very much fell into my childhood, and it was the first real experience for me of having a horror game and a game that had zombies. And let's be honest, zombies are even terrible now as an adult. Like, they're terrifying. As a child, the idea of zombies is fucking horrific. And I remember just that game just shat me the fuck up. I never completed it because it was just so fucking terrifying, and I've never gone back to it since because I can't handle the controls. But as a
Yeah,
child,
that makes sense.
yeah, as a child, I was like, no, this is too scary. As an adult, I'm like, no, this is too hard. So yeah, that was my number one. My second title is, and I've there's a particular story that Mike's aware of involving Max with this game.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
I can't remember which. I want to say it's Alone in the Dark 4, but I might be wrong. So basically, as a child, I picked up an Alone in the Dark game. It was on PlayStation 1, I think. It was either 1 or 2, and it was there were two characters. So the concept was you were going to this island, and there was a lady that I cannot remember the name of, and then there was the main guy, which was Edward Carnby, who's like throughout the Alone in the Dark series, he's a regular character.
Just a quick anecdote
happens.
Quick anecdote for me on Alone in the Dark. I remember getting it on a demo disc, and my mum played it. I gave control to my mum. I was like, I'll play this game. It's really cool. She wandered through and went through this puddle, and then a monster just jumps out the puddle, and then she just threw the controller on the floor. No, she'd never played console since. But sorry to interrupt, Shane. I had to say that. But go on, mate. Continue, please.
So the game consists of, you've got these two characters that you play as both characters, and it was a really cool concept, and it was something I had not played or seen before in a game at the age I was when it came out. And as I say, me and Max must have been, I want to say it was PS2 because we must have been in secondary school, but we were still quite young. And so yeah, something happens. You two get separated on the plane. So the female drops into the top of this mansion, and Edward Carnby drops into the like the garden area of the house. And then you get to play as both characters, but you switch, like you can switch between the two at certain points. Sorry, tell a lie. You get to pick which character you play as, and that gives you the storyline for that character. So with her, you don't have a gun, you have a torch, and it's a lot more. Hers is a lot more like puzzle based and running from enemies, and sort of discovering the secrets of the house. Whereas Edward's is more combat and trying to find your way into the house to find the female. And I took it to Max's house, and we all know Max is more of a cry puss than me. And I'm a big cry puss, and he is worse. So he used to, as a child, he had the attic or loft bedroom that was converted, and it had pull down blackout blinds. So me, being the absolute knobhead that I am, went to his house and was like, Max, I've got this game. I think you'll really like it. Let's play it. But we have to play it in the dark, all the curtains shut, pitch black, no lights on. So there we are. Yeah, put the game in, shut all the blinds. It is literally like you can't see your hand in front of your face, dark in his bedroom right now. We put the game on. I know what's coming in the beginning because I've played the beginning bit, and I'm like, yep, play as Edward, yep, do this. And you're walking through this garden, and it has that similar scene to Resi 1 where you're just walking through, and out of nowhere, this fucking half-dead dog jumps out of a bush and starts like barking at you. Honestly, Max full on like swore at me, threw the controller in the air in like sheer shock, just like, fuck's sake! Jumped up, opened the blinds, turned the game off, and was like, we're not playing this anymore. That was that.
We're done here. Go home, Shane.
Never played that again. Opened all the blinds, moved on.
How old were you guys?
we were early secondary school, so somewhere between 11 and 14, I imagine.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we were young. But
You're
it
allowed to
was
be a pussy at that age.
Yeah, for sure.
definitely.
sure.
But I mean, he's still a crappus now, though. But yeah, I mean, that game for me, again, it had that similar Resident Evil vibe. It had this idea of some really good jump scares, and again, it kind of hit that as a child. It hit that element of horror that I hadn't seen in games before.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed how that one split the two characters, and you had two completely different gameplays depending on who you played as, and I enjoyed that a lot as well.
Yeah. Does that not lend to like the setting that you put it in, where it was like complete dark, and if you'd have played that in the middle of the day,
Oh
you
no,
know,
I played it in the middle of the day, and it still shut me up.
yeah. All right. Okay. That's all
Um,
right then.
I
That's
just
pretty cool.
I went in there knowing that dog was going to happen and thought,
Yeah.
right, this is going to make Max poo himself. And I'm his friend, but I'm also a knob. So this is
Did
really
you
going to...
As a good friend, you want to fuck him over at any point.
Exactly. But no, obviously in that situation, the fact that, yeah, the setting had helped in the turning all the lights off. I mean, I've got another really quick story with regards to Max and horror games. So we were a little bit older at this point, maybe 15, 16, and we were at my house, and he had brought over, I think he just brought over his entire PC because why wouldn't you? And he was sitting in my living room, and I think what this was, it was there was a period that my parents went on holiday, and he basically came and lived with me for a week, so we could just play games together.
Ultimate
And-
sleepover.
Yeah, literally. And my sister just made us beans on toast every day. And yeah, he was sitting. So my living room's got like quite a big back door. It's a big glass back door, and he was sitting at the back of the living room with the back door to his left, and he was focusing on the game, and he was playing Doom 3. And yeah, he's playing through, and he was getting proper shut up by that girl. There's like a little girl in it that's like laughing and giggling as you're going through, and it was proper creeping him out. And so I just stood at the back door being like, Max, why is there a girl in the garden? Max, what's in the garden? And he was just sitting there like, please shut up, Shane, you're really fucking freaking me out. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I was like, please shut up. Please shut up. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stories I can share with you with regards to horror, and I do have another one, but I'll save it for a little bit further.
I feel like that needs its own episode. Stories with Max.
Potentially, but I'll save this other story for the best moments bit.
One of my favourite moments, or least favourite moments, because it still haunts me, is in Condemned 2. I don't know if you've ever played that. It was a PS2 game.
I remember.
Wait, was it PS2, PS3? Shit, I can't remember now.
It was. I'm
No,
pretty sure
it was. I played it on the 360, so it was PS3 era 3. But I played it on the 360 because I was the 360 kid back then. But Condemned was this game that my sister, she's a horror fanatic, and I'm sure she'll love this episode, and she fucking loves this story because she was sat next to me. But yeah, so this bit in Condemned, which is a really, really good horror game, I think, on the same lines as how Outlast is now, but it is previous gens on the 360. You know, you're kind of exploring this world. It's a city, and there's a lot of like, I can't remember the story exactly, but it was kind of this weird sound system that was playing through the city, and it was making people like crazy and doing like strange things and just attack and be violent. And but there was also like a killer, and you were trying to like solve this killer. I might be getting 1 and 2 mixed up there, but anyway, it was all scary, and there was a part where you go through a hotel, and I ended up, exploring a hotel, and there's lots of different rooms and stuff, and I went into this one room where there's there's a bedroom, and you're exploring for like weapons, or because you had no guns or anything like that. It wasn't like a shooter. You were just you had your bare hands. You could punch people, or you could run away, or you could like if you're lucky enough, you could find like a bit of wood or like a pipe or something like that. So I was kind of exploring for this weapon. So I went into this one room. It's like a normal hotel bedroom, and then it had a bathroom off to the side. And then for some reason, I went into that bathroom, and then for some reason, I just decided to look into the mirror. And I stood there for like a good 5 seconds, and I was really like confident because just found this weapon, and I saw this face appear. Like the typical horror movie scene where like they move the mirror and then there's a face behind you. It was literally that, and I fucking shit myself. I like threw the controller. Like, I did exactly what my mum did playing fucking a PS1 game. Threw my controller, fucking made this weird noise that was something like "Ugh!" Air just escaped my mouth. Like I shit myself, and
Like a hero.
like a hero. And I like spun round and like picked my controller up and spun round, like tried swinging at this guy, and he killed me because he was literally like. I looked in the mirror, I was like super confident, like hey, good looking, like finger guns in the mirror, like. And then
Hey, fella.
this absolute gripper just turns up behind me and just wrecks my shit, and I just that was like one of my least favorite moments in horror, just because I was just super confident in like, oh, it's typical horror, like it won't scare me, and it did. It just surprised me because there was nothing in that. That moment wasn't scripted. That guy had followed me into the bathroom. I just didn't notice. So I was looking for like weapons or whatever, but it totally wasn't scripted. I walked into that room. I was in there for a good 5 seconds. Someone came in behind me and just attacked me. But that was the game. But it was this crazy like unique moment. And
Amazing.
Yeah, it's I
Great
fucking
moment.
shit myself.
Great moment.
Yeah, it was a great moment for everyone listening, but not me. Another best moment for horror is and this breeds my fucking fear of the open water. Like I learned to swim maybe 3 years ago, something like that, because I am so terrified of water. It's ridiculous. This gets me emotional talking about it. I'm sorry. The water level in Sonic 2.
Wait, hold on. Before you get into this, how did you learn? You learned how to swim 3 years ago?
Yeah, because me and Ellie were going on holiday, and she wanted to teach me how to swim by taking me to the local pool, climbing on my back, and then kind of like getting me to swim. So it was like a test of strength. It was like Rocky, where he's like, he's like chasing a chicken, but he's like trying not to drown. It was essentially that.
Oh my god!
So through my own determination to live, I learned to swim with Ellie just climbing.
That is way worse than a ghost rape scene. Jesus Christ, Ellie is a man. She's a mean lady.
She's so mean. But yeah. Anyway, it like my fear of water just bred from the fucking Sonic 2 level where you go underwater and you have to like platform your way through. But that fucking sound, and I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have played Sonic 2. Maybe Shane, have you played it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think I got that far on it though, because as we discussed previously, I'm not very good at Sonic.
Well, JB, have you played Sonic 2?
You know what's funny is I know we talked about this and last night when we were playing Ghost of Tsushima, and I pretended to know. I was like, "Oh yeah, the Sonic water level," but I had to ask Sarah what you meant after the fact.
Sarah.
Yeah, exactly. Tech support. Hey, someone made a reference I don't understand. But so she did tell me, and it does sound horrible.
Yeah, it's just the music. It's just like dun 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 dun. It's like the Jaws music. It's very
exactly what she said.
It's super fucking tense, and you've got like it counts down from 5, and then when it gets to 0, you're dead. It's like, but you have to find this, an air bubble. Yeah, you have to find air bubbles, and just that level as a kid playing through it, I was like, I fucking hated that level. I died so many times, just absolute panic in a state of like absolute fear. And shout out to Sonic 2. Fuck you guys. You scared me as a kid. You made me scared of water. Fuck Sonic.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Sonic.
Yeah. So what about you, Shade? What's your favourite spoopy moment?
Well, firstly, before we got into that, I still don't know how to swim. I've never learnt.
Oh, so you're a drowner.
Yep, I'm a drowner. I've never learnt. My view is to just stay away from water.
So you have the same
So-
fear as me, like.
Yeah, the idea of being in open water is terrifying. The idea of drowning is probably the worst way to die. Fuck that shit.
And then there's JP, who used to be a marine, who probably spent 90% of his time in the water.
It's all right. He can save us then if we ever go near water. It's all good.
You know what's actually funny is I'm a shit swimmer.
Fuck. So I've got two stories for you. So my favourite moment in a game, a horror moment. There's one that stands out for me, and it's a game called Project Zero, and I think it might have been in Japan or it might have been in America. It was also called Fatal Frame. If that name rings a bell.
Yes.
So essentially, it was you played as a young Japanese girl who was in search of, I think it was her father or her sister, who had gone to explore a haunted house, essentially. I think it was her father, and he was a journalist, and she's gone to explore it to find out where her dad is because he hasn't returned. And she takes with her is a flash camera. That's it. So she's like a Japanese schoolgirl, typical Japanese setup. She rocks into
Super
this house.
hot, gets raped by tentacles. Anyway, go on.
None of that happens. But yeah, she goes into this house, and the house is haunted, obviously. And the only weapon you have to fight off these ghosts is your camera. So if a ghost appears, if I remember rightly, you had to pull up your camera and basically try and snap it, and it would scare it off or make it disappear.
I remember playing this demo for several minutes and then turning it off forever.
Honestly, so I played quite a bit of it, but it was terrifying. And again, it focused on the audio, and much like what you were saying earlier. So there's a bit particularly that I remember where you have to go out into the shrine area, and you do this boss style thing, and then you come back in, and you come back in for a route that you've already gone through. So you automatically you've got this idea of an essence of safety because you've been through that area before, and you're walking through this room and you hear a child laughter and some really quick footsteps coming from the room above you.
I'm out. I'm done.
Right, so already you're on edge a little bit. You open the door and then you see a child run across the edge of the room and disappear into the wall, and you're like, fuck's sake, something's gonna happen soon. You can sense it. You walk through this next room, you hear a few more footsteps, and then it all stops. And I was like, okay, this is odd. What's happening? So then you go through another door, and it takes you back into the main atrium hallway of the building, where you've been 20-30 times already because it's the main area. So you go back in there, and all of a sudden you hear this music, and it's it's like a traditional, I don't know what the instrument's called, but it's like a traditional sort of Japanese string instrument. And it's like an instrument that lays down, and people kneel down and sort of pluck the strings on it.
Oh, yeah.
So you're walking through and you're hearing this ding, 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 ding. You're like, oh, I mean, already you're on edge, proper fucking freaked out. So I'm walking up the stairs because I can see a light on in the room upstairs that definitely wasn't on before. And just keep walking up these stairs, ding, 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 ding. As soon as you touch that top step and you can see the shadow in that room, it just goes ding as a string snaps and the light goes out. And I honestly full on shat myself. It was all these ghosts and everything didn't get with that one audio piece of this string snapping, and it was so loud and so unexpected. It completely fucking shat me up. Yeah, and that one memory of that game just sits with me because it was just terrifying.
That's just going back
my
to what I said about how fucking important audio is, and I might have not.
definitely.
I might have not made my point, halfway through this episode, but by the end, you're all like,
no,
"Oh
and
yeah,
I
audio,
agree.
super
I
important."
agree because, like I say, the ghosts themselves. Yeah, there were some scary moments, but the ghosts themselves weren't massively scary, and it was those footsteps and that I say that musical instrument and just the sound of that string snapping and then the lights going out at the exact same time just fucking got me. But my other quick story that I was going to talk about earlier, again of me and Max and a horror-esque element, and I think you'll both enjoy this one a lot. So, what was it, 2012, maybe a bit earlier, maybe 2008, that Paranormal Activity came out. It was a good 10 plus years
Oh
ago now.
yeah.
So we went to so I can't remember how early, we were early 20s. We went to the cinema to see it. It was us two and maybe 2 or 3 other friends, and it was the very first Paranormal Activity. So it's before anybody really had an understanding of these films. It was one of the first showings of it, and everyone in the cinema were genuinely reacted to this film, were genuinely scared by what they had seen, because the first one was really well done when you hadn't seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
And we left, and me and Max lived quite close together. We did at that point anyway, because I lived close to his parents. And I was driving him home, and all of his family had gone to bed at this point because it was quite a late showing. My family had gone to bed, and I pulled up outside his house, and it was pitch black in his house. And he looked at me and was like, "I'm really scared to go in." And I was like, "Yeah, no." So I said to him, I was like, "Yeah, no. Do you want to stay at mine tonight? Really don't feel like I could be alone right now."
Jesus Christ.
Really quite terrified. And he was like, "Yeah, can I?" So yeah, he ended up coming to my house just so we didn't have to be alone after watching Paranormal Activity and getting too scared. Genuinely, that happened.
I feel
Wait,
like
how old were you guys?
Early 20s.
I feel like
Alright.
there's a love story here. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
amazing.
laughing, but I'm also turned on a little bit.
I mean, you said it's a love story. I did used to phone him from the bath, so
I've heard about the bath calls.
yeah. I mean, say what you will, but we're probably pushing our time a little bit now. So
Yeah,
we've
we
got
are
one
pushing
last
2 hours right now.
Which is a shame because I have a lot of questions, but I guess we'll save that for another time.
Save that for another time. I
Yeah.
don't think we've been recording for the full 2 though, have we? We didn't start recording until about 9:30.
We're on 1 minute 52 right now. So
There's some stuff I'm sure you can cut out at the beginning.
oh yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see.
Last question then. Just quick 30-second answers, Mike. Don't fuck me off today. JP,
Would I do that?
yes and no, and why? Do spooky games make for better streams? 30 seconds, go.
I would say no because it ultimately depends on the streamer. For me, I'm fairly indifferent to what someone is streaming. It really just kind of depends on whether or not I dig their style. It can be horror. I do definitely enjoy watching horror streams, but I'm indifferent to the game category. It ultimately depends on the actual streamer itself.
Yeah.
I see that.
I'm going to say yes.
Go ahead,
Horror makes for better streams because fear is entertaining to watch. Also, the name of my sex tape. Shane, go.
I'm going to go with Mike on this. I'm going to say yes, mainly because I like watching other people get scared, and it's hilarious, particularly when it's you, JB.
Yeah, I mean, I do get a little scared.
But yeah, that's this week's episode. So we should probably wrap it up.
Boom.
I'm sure Mike's
Done.
got some editing to cut out and shorten it down.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
Mike, do you want
We'll
to
see.
wrap us up with the end of episode stuff?
Yeah. So every Monday, episode comes out. This week is spooky. We've got a blog post every Friday. But give us, if you enjoyed this discussion about horror, because I did. Although I hate the genre myself personally, just because 1, it scares me, 2, I find it boring, which is contradictory, Anyway, give us your best moments in the comments, and let us know, because we do this shit every week, but we don't do it for profit or anything like that. We just do it because we fucking love video games. You can find us, like Shane said at the start, YouTube, Spotify, all those good places. Hit us with likes. That really helps us out. Likes, comments, and stuff like that. We really love to hear from you. Subscribe and do all that good stuff, because it helps us out. So yeah, that's it from us. TripleXP. Yeah.
So, bye.
Bye. Spooky. Bye.
TripleXP. TripleXP. TripleXP.